Sup internets, I'm God the Gamer, and today I'm going to be taking an in-depth look into BioWare's Anthem gameplay reveal demo. So let's deep dive into this thing and see what sort of secrets we can pull out. To start, we have to take into consideration the fact that this is pre-alpha footage. Not just that, but this is also a demo intended to impress people, so time will tell just how much of what we see here will actually make it into the final game. As the curtain pulls back, we get to see a lot of animating humans in this market. It'll be interesting to see how well all these people animate in the final game. I'm already seeing some detailed character work here, even for models just in the background, moving around. It's pretty clear BioWare put a lot of detail into this scene for the demo. And the first NPC we talk to is Praxley here, who shows off some impressive facial animations. We also get to briefly hear what our character sounds like in-game, which, if you're paying attention, is clearly a different voice than the quote-unquote player chat that you'll hear later.
Unbelievable.
But perhaps more interesting, this is also where we get our first glimpse into the mission system of the game, with a mission that asks us to rescue Praxley's workers. And here we see another Javelin, perhaps another freelancer, or perhaps given the color pattern, could be some kind of police force. Pay attention to that crest on his shoulder, because we'll be seeing it very soon. In fact, let's take a moment to pause the game right here. Here we see the same insignia on full display in the background. In this scene we also get a great view of this Javelin platform, which has, from what I can tell, all three Javelin types that we've seen so far. Prominently in the center right now is what I assume to be the Colossus platform. What's more interesting is the player profile that we see above it, labeled Ally of the Week. This is for a player named Shadowjack, who at level 43 is actually the highest level freelancer we'll see in this demo. Sort of. Technically we won't actually see Shadowjack in action, so I guess Kim can keep that crown. It'll be interesting to see what sort of perks and bonuses come from being the Ally of the Week. From what we know so far, not to mention the exchange that happens between the players regarding which platform they're going to use, it's pretty clear you'll be able to pick and choose which Javelin to play with at any given time. We get a brief voice chat with Paul here before embarking onto our own Javelin platform, the Ranger in this case. Now this sequence is interesting, because it clearly serves as a transition to the outside open world. More importantly, this is where we get our first glimpse at the character's face, which looks awesome by the way. I absolutely love that badass smirk. Anyway, here we walk out like a boss and get our first good look at the open world. Very pretty with all the birds and everything. This great view also gives us our first look at some of the waypoint markers in the game. It's hard to tell what all these represent, but this looks to be a mission waypoint, whereas this is possibly an exploration area, and this could be some raid or greater challenge. This could actually represent a faction in the game, so we're probably looking at guards for this particular hub. Now we see Paul actually joining our team instead of just chatting with us. It's interesting to see how he actually comes into the game, and this will be important later on, but you can see his name show up the moment before he actually lands. Before we move on, take a note of this particular spine-like structure that you see in the background. We'll get to see a lot of those later on. From here it starts getting really exciting. First off is the jump into the actual dive. Now this is significant because our character doesn't actually do anything special before launching into this flight. She pretty much just takes a regular jump, and then she's off. Now obviously this flight is pretty amazing, but what's even more amazing as we move through the world is just how packed they managed to make it. In fact, Patrick Sunderland of EA actually mentioned in an interview that he challenged the team to keep the fidelity of the game very high despite being an open world. As we fly through the world, we see a little bit of physics interaction with that vine. That's going to be interesting later on. Now that we finally set down on the ground, we can see a lot more impressive detail, and we also get our first look at some of the other functionality of our Javelin jetpacks, with this jetpack assisted run that we see here. Up ahead we can see more of those spine-like structures that I mentioned earlier. Now we're getting a closer look at some of the creature dangers in this game. In addition to these hound-like beasts, we also see what I'm going to dub the Space Gorilla. The best part about this scene is we get our first look at the actual combat UI of the game. Now as much as people like to make the comparison to Destiny, I'd say this clearly inherits from Mass Effect Andromeda, and considering that they're both BioWare Frostbite engine games, they'll probably have a lot more in common. We'll get a much closer look at all the combat elements later, but for now, it's time to take flight again. And this is where BioWare really shows off by taking us under the water. Here we get to see some beautiful water effects. We also get our first hints into the exploration system in the game. Here we can see a discovery bonus for dead-like caverns up ahead. Before jumping out of the water and into our first actual display of combat in the game. We also get our first look at these hostile aliens called Scars, but we'll see more of them soon. This is pretty standard shotgun play here. But we do get to see the shields in action as well as the damage indicator on our HUD. In addition, we can see the ammo counter right next to our reticle. Paul quickly rejoins the action in time to show us his special slam ability. Moving ahead, we discover Longfall Ruins. This looks like it could possibly be some sort of dungeon. However, we won't go inside just yet because, as you all know, Kim needs the XP. Instead, we get some insight into the resource system of the game as Paul discovers some Brinium shards. As our intrepid freelancers take off once again, we get to see more of their jetpacks in action, both with the Colossus leaping ability and with more jetpack running as seen here. We get to hear a bit of radio chatter.
Anyone, we're under attack. Anyone in the area, we're under...
Before we see what looks like a mission objective pop up on screen. Up ahead, things start getting really exciting. First we see this walker getting taken down by rockets, and more impressively actually knocks down trees as it falls over. While our freelancer scopes down some more Scar aliens, we can see that she's wielding a different weapon this time. If you look closely, you can see here that her shields have been regenerated a little bit. But before she can fire a shot, Paul comes in and shows us the power of his mortar special ability. The most impressive thing about this ability isn't the amount of damage that it does, but the fact that it left a crater behind. This combined with the walkers felling over the trees seems to imply a heavy amount of interactive physics in the real world. I'm curious to see how much of this interactive open world will make it to the final product. Now this part is very important because here we get to see our freelancer's abilities in action. This particular multi-rocket weapon has a bunch of cool effects associated with it, but it's most interesting from a gameplay mechanic. From what we've seen so far, this ability was actually a piece of gear equipped onto our Javelin platform. This means we can pick and choose what abilities we bring with us based on what gear we have equipped. It's exciting to think about what sort of customization options this will bring into the game. Take for example, Paul's earlier slam ability. Was that an equipped ability? Does that mean we could possibly equip melee weapons and use special abilities with them? It's pure speculation right now. Now with all the Scar aliens defeated, we get another brief insight into the mission system of the game, with its completion an XP award notification. But even better than that, we get loot. Specifically, Jara's Wrath, a level 35 legendary Volt rifle. No idea what that means, but I'm sure we'll all find out soon enough. In the meantime, we have a look at what the different stats for our weapons are going to be. Damage, accuracy, range, rate of fire, ammo, pretty much everything you'd want to know about your weapon. Now we cut to a different part of the game where they show us world events. In this case, a Shaper Storm. You'll notice up here our mission tracker updating with this world event, and of particular interest, we get to see a full squad forming. Just like before, our fellow freelancers appear right next to us, before Kim jumps into place, followed by Sandra, who shows off a teleportation ability. With the full squad assembled, we get to see a clear picture of what the full freelancer profile looks like. In addition to our name, which happens to be Michelle, and our avatar, each freelancer also has a level, plus some form of elemental bonus. They certainly seem to be hinting at a great deal of variety possible on our various Javelin platforms. Unfortunately, we don't get to see much more of the Shaper Storm event, other than some impressive weather effects. Though we do get to see Sandra using her Javelin in a unique way here. It's good to know our Javelins are equipped with flashlights. In this final scene, there's a couple of very fascinating things to look at. Most prominently are those spine-shaped structures I mentioned earlier, which seem to play a huge role in this Shaper Storm. We also see Sandra hovering next to us. It looks like she's still using the same ability she used earlier. And then our heroic freelancers jump into the fray. And this is the end of the demo. I hope you enjoyed this in-depth look at what this demo has revealed so far. Did you learn anything? Or was there something else you think I missed? Please feel free to comment and let me know. It'll be interesting to see what else we can find out. Until the next juicy bit of Anthem info comes out, this has been Gothic Gamer, and I'll see you next time.